This episode of Couch Potatoes Unite! Is sponsored by Blue Bridge Games. For the games and gifts you won't find anywhere else, head to Grand Rapids, Michigan's friendliest local game store, Blue Bridge Games. Blue Bridge Games carries an extensive line of board games, card games, role-playing tabletop games, Magic the Gathering, and more. Stop into their storefront on East Fulton or shop with them online at bluebridgegames.com.
You say you wanna watch a drama. You say you wanna watch a comedy. Well, you can watch it with your mama, or you can watch it with your daddy.
You'll even sit and watch it with your middle schooler, so you can come and talk around a water cooler. We're watching all day and all night.
Couch Potatoes Unite.
Whoa, whoa.
Couch Potatoes Unite.
Whoa, whoa. Couch Potatoes Unite.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! Which is based on a blog of the same name, because it might not be as catchy or as riveting as the name Lalo, but it gets the job done in more ways than one. I'm the blogger in question and the self-styled cheap couch potato. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For at Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and the unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU, ! Hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays, and as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panelists and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to the website or the podcast via iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Amazon Music, basically wherever you get your podcasts to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows around the water cooler, including, but not limited to, Stranger Things, iZombie, The Good Place, Game of Thrones, Grace and Frankie, Mr. Robot, Altered Carbon, The Orville, Outlander, Westworld, Fuller House, Schitt's Creek, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Big Little Lies, and The Good Doctor. Plus, new episodes are in the works, including revisits for Doctor Who, The 100, Supernatural, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, This Is Us, Charmed, Riverdale, the American Horror Story franchise series panel will talk about Season 1 of American Horror Stories. The DCTU series panel will reflect upon Season 4 of Black Lightning, and the Star Trek 50 Plus series will discuss Season 1 of Deep Space Nine. We'll be launching new panels covering Call the Midwife, The Animaniacs, Killing Eve, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, American Gods, Grey's Anatomy, Cobra Kai, Peaky Blinders, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, A Discovery of Witches, and The Hauntings of Hill House and Bly Manor. And because we look back at shows now past, we'll travel through time and experience all sorts of identities with Quantum Leap. We'll thank the Golden Girls for being friends. We'll cry bazinga for Big Bang Theory. We'll dive deep into the fantasy world of The Magicians. We'll navigate the witty political satire of Parks and Recreation. We'll become psychos for Psych. We'll go where everybody knows your name with Cheers. We hope you'll be listening when we talk about Frasier, and we'll know that's what she said when we talk about The Office, both from the UK and the USA. By the way, did you know that CPU also from time to time goes live? We've been live from bunkers, comedy shows, Comic-Cons, and game stores, plus we're planning more live appearances and other cool stuff, including in whatever these times are. So make sure you like or follow us at our Facebook page, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, or subscribe to our website, our YouTube channel, our Apple iTunes channel, our Stitcher Radio channel, or find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, CastBox, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. In the meantime, if you don't hear a show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we always seek new panelists. So if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any of the outlets I've mentioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback. Even if you don't want to tell us, you probably should tell us. Just be nice about it. That's a quote. I came up with a quote. Today, our Breaking Better series panel is back around the virtual water cooler and continuing our Looking Back to Look Forward Breaking Better series. In fact, this is the 6th chapter in this multi-part series in which we are exploring all shows in one multi-show universe, specifically the entire universe spawned by the show Breaking Bad. Today in our 6th discussion, we're looking forward, in a manner of speaking, to the last of the available seasons of the prequel series, spun off of one of the most critically acclaimed and popularly watched dramas of all time, and therefore our series progressing today. In part 6 of this series, we're discussing Season 5 of Better Call Saul, which aired from February 23rd to April 20th, 2020, with a total of 10 episodes. We've already discussed Seasons 1 through 3 of Breaking Bad in the first episode of our series, Seasons 4 through 5 of Breaking Bad in the second, the sequel film El Camino in the third, the first 2 seasons of Better Call Saul in the fourth, and the third and fourth seasons in the 5th episode of our series. This is the last episode of our series to be released in advance of the airing of the final season of Better Call Saul, expected to premiere sometime in 2022, though no premiere date has yet been announced. In addition, if you're not already aware, you should know that from time to time your chief couch potato and main moderator, i.e. me, needs a break, particularly when I think others are more passionate about the show we're discussing at the moment. Case in point, today's episode, which I'm again not here to moderate, rather frequent panelist Kyle returns anew to continue his first ever turn at the moderating microphone for this series. He is currently our 7th most involved CPU panelist and is super ready to continue talking about this, his most favorite show on the air currently, and possibly of all time, which is why Kyle and I have split moderation duties for this Breaking Better series. In this episode, Kyle is rejoined by our Breaking Better cadre of panelists, namely Nick, Hillary, Julianne, Nate, and of course me, doing the panelist thing myself. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Kyle back to the moderating microphone. Take it away, Kyle.
Thanks for the lovely introduction, Kylie.
You're welcome.
So, Season 5 sees the full transformation of Jimmy McGill into his Saul persona as he builds his criminal law practice, and the worlds start to bleed together into something resembling more like Breaking Bad. So we're going to go around after I read the character descriptions, and everyone will go around and introduce themselves, rate the show, and how they came to watch it. You love it. You're all in to see the transformation of the criminal lawyer we've all come to know in Breaking Bad. You embrace every corner of this world, from the personal, legal, and criminal. After all, the ends justify the means, like Jimmy McGill, the once and future Saul Goodman. You watch it because you're drawn to the criminal underbelly of Albuquerque. You understand its inner workings better than most. Though it may repel you at first, you find yourself repeatedly drawn back into the Albuquerque drug trade, like Mike Ehrmantraut. You watch it for the legal side. You're invested in the legal back and forth and have no interest in the morally questionable characters who exist outside the courtroom. You believe in Jimmy McGill even if you don't fully understand Saul Goodman, like Kim Wexler. You watch it for the Breaking Bad connections. You're invested in the future of the drug trade and the cartel Cold War against your sworn enemies, like Gustavo Fring. You only watch it because you feel like you have to. You don't particularly enjoy it, but you have Gustavo Fring with his razor to your neck, like Nacho Varga. You watch it for the violence. You want to see the destruction for your own amusement and for the charming villains, like Lalo Salamanca. You don't watch it because it's full of scumbags who you have no respect for. If it was up to you, they'd be locked up and not your problem, like Hayden Schrader. Right, so we'll go around, and I will push it to my wife, Hillary, the moderator's sister, or the usual moderator, Kylie's sister. So I'm trying to get all the connections out early.
Fix.
It was a nice effort.
Okay, so it's being pushed to me.
Yeah, good job. Welcome.
And I am Hillary.
Hi, Hillary.
What's up? I'm related to both the moderators in different ways. We talk about this on many podcasts.
Kyle just said it.
It's good times. I know I'm reiterating it because I feel like it got confusing right there for a second. But anyways, I think I've said that I'm Jimmy/Saul for the other recordings. That hasn't changed. I would probably still more so be in that category for this season, actually. Do we still need to come say how we came to watch it? Is that still part of it? No?
You
Okay.
don't have to unless Kyle wants you to.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, it's up to you.
Like, they can't see your shoulders.
So much fun already.
Okay. I think we've had this story already, but I'll reiterate it because it's cool. We started watching Breaking Bad pretty early on, before it really hit traction, I think, with the mainstream audience, or more of a mainstream audience, and pretty much got super addicted to that and fell in love with those characters, and that's one of the highlights of both series is the character development for me, and I'll still talk about that more as we get into it. But with Kyle becoming pretty obsessed with the Saul character, there was pretty much no way that we weren't going to watch Better Call Saul when it started, plus it's just part of the same world that we already really enjoyed. So I'm Saul, And that's why I enjoy watching the show, and we will talk about it more.
All right. Welcome back, Hillary, the moderator's wife and the host's sister.
I can go next.
Jinx. Well, only one of you can.
All right, I'll start.
I was going to make you rock, paper, scissors. That's good.
Cool. So I'm Julianne.
Hi, Julianne.
Hello. So I would have to say I am Saul Goodman for this one, which I think has been pretty consistent for my character choices throughout our series together. But I feel like just as the seasons go on, it's getting more and more exciting. I definitely have that feeling of just being on a ride. Like, this show is a freight train. I think like Breaking Bad is too, in terms of the pace. Things just kind of keep escalating, and I'm here for it. So, yeah.
Welcome back, Julianne.
Thank you.
And the other one who wanted to go.
Well, that's me. I'm Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Hi. I came to watch this show because I started watching Breaking Bad, and Jimmy was one of, if not is my favorite character from that show. So I, of course, had to watch this show. And I am Jimmy based on the character description, because that's why I'm watching the show. I want to see him become Saul Goodman. Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I got.
All right. Welcome back, Nick.
All right, that leaves me.
Thanks. I'm going to push it to Nate.
Nick was
Great.
volunteering. You didn't have to push it.
Yeah, I volunteered to go last. Yeah, I am Nate. I started watching this series. I just followed the series. It just, kept going. I loved it. And of course, I'm Jimmy. 100% in. Jimmy, one of the most brilliant law minds ever. Move over, Ben Matlock. That's what I say. By the way, I'm moderating the Matlock podcast.
We haven't discussed that, but I'll take that under advisement. Welcome back,
Spoilers.
Nate. Spoilers
Thank you.
indeed. And I get to go before the moderator because I'm not moderating, but am participating. Kylie here again. Hello. I don't remember what I was. I think I've never really picked Saul, and it's always made people go, what? And I'm like, oh well. So I think I've been Mike. I think I'm going to stay Mike. Or maybe I was Mike and Gus, because that's really it. Like, I'm loving the Breaking Bad connections. I'm liking Mike's side of the story. But I don't know. I'm starting to get towards Saul. This was the best season of the 5 for me so far, for all the reasons. That maybe because we're down the line in this freight train that Julianne described, and the pace is tense, and all the people are starting to come into the world, and I'm like, uh-oh. Things are happening, so I'll revise and say I'm between Saul and Mike. I'm keeping the Mike piece, though, because that's just me.
I always thought you were Salamanca. Was that not
Which one? There's
the description? With
We need to get you a bell, bro.
Hell no. You don't need no bell. And thanks, but no thanks, Nate. Kyle.
Oh.
I am Kyle. I'm moderating this one because it's my favorite show of all time. So obviously I'm going to be Jimmy Saul. But I'm also going to throw Lalo in there because I do watch it for the violence and the charming villains. I kind of tailored that one to myself because I love Lalo and I'm absolutely rooting for him. I know everyone likes Gus, but Lalo is awesome.
But obviously, Gus is in the other series and Lalo is not. Just saying, spoiler.
Hey, Lalo, as far as we know, is still alive during Breaking Bad. He's mentioned by Saul Goodman.
Okay, go ahead, Kyle.
So the season pretty much opens with, we get some more Cinnabon Gene, and somebody knows he is Saul Goodman, and he's in a panic, and we get our first big cameo, Robert Forrester in his final performance as Ed the Disappearer, and Jimmy pretty much says
R.I.P.
he's going to handle it himself. So he's completely slipping out of Gene and going back to Saul Goodman plotting. So what did you guys think of that and Robert Forrester, and where do you think that that's going?
I was just as tense as Jimmy was in that moment. I was like, oh, damn, because he just wasn't letting it go. It's really good, the way that they direct every scene, and I know we've already talked about this, they're really good at building the tension that you were supposed to be feeling. And it started off right off the bat.
This moment also prepared you really well for this season being basically Breaking Bad. Like, we're there, and this scene gets you right there, and then we start into the present for the rest of the story, where we watch it build. But it felt that tension that almost every episode of Breaking Bad has.
You knew that guy was going to be bad news because he was a white dude in a Cosby sweater.
Oh, God.
Like, I was like, oh no, Gene. Oh, jeez.
He said that he knew him from the commercials, right? Or was it the ads?
Yeah, like he was like a fanboy. Like
he lived in Albuquerque, and he was familiar with the criminal world of Albuquerque, so he knew who Saul was.
Nick just muted himself. But seriously, he was like a fanboy. He was even like, yeah, I had your matchbook and like the whole shebang.
You saw where he got the kind of weird that a white guy in a Cosby sweater when he says, where he's just like, come on, just do it. Like, which is that like that hillbilly, like, we're going to sit up together all night. Like,
it was very uncomfortable.
Yeah, the say it. Come on, man. Say it.
It was, and you could tell he had no escape. Like, you could tell he had been recognized. Like, there was no lie that he could sell that was going to get him out of that situation without admitting.
Cops.
Yeah, he couldn't create a scene. He was literally pushed into a corner.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My number one question was, who's that guy working for? He's clearly a plant. Like, who's he working for?
Yeah, he seemed a little too suspicious.
Nate keeps talking, right? He's pointing to the sweater again. He keeps talking about white guy in a, quote, Cosby sweater. Again,
you're going to see him on Cops. He's on, like, the best of Cops. That's what he looks like.
Okay, I was thinking maybe Mr. Rogers' sweater was more important, or more, like, applicable, but...
Squiggly, doobly flooble.
I don't... Okay. This is going downhill fast. All I know is that, yes, he was super suspicious, and it was... I mean, his instinct to go call Ed, I think, was spot on, because who just recognizes the Cinnabon guy in the middle of Nebraska or wherever the hell he is, you know?
Yeah.
But then that's the number one question that I had going into the season, like, which of the possible people that are still left, because that's the brain switch you're making with each premiere, is like, oh, this is after Breaking Bad, so who of the people that we've been watching is left looking for Saul in this way and having tracked him down to this mall that apparently still exists.
Well, and here's the thing that I found interesting about that. He's been so paralyzed with fear, but then when he makes that decision on the phone call with Ed, like, he is, like, rock solid. It's almost like he needs a goal. He needs an enemy. Otherwise, his brain is, like, he is essentially, like, eating himself up with paranoia. But now he's like, okay, it happened, and how am I going to fix it?
I also think it's just a relief for him, because it's clear he despises this existence, this sort of witness protection and existence that he's in. And I think the juxtaposition between the premiere and the rest of the season is that, you know, when push comes to shove, he'll do what he has to do. And this is more of a 2020 hindsight thing that I'm now having on the premiere, because this is obviously a revelation that comes out as the season progresses. But he does what he's supposed to do when it's called on him to do it, no matter how hard it is. And so that now I see as a reflection on that moment when he's talking to Ed and decides he's going to take care of it himself.
I was surprised we didn't get any more of the flashes to Gene. Like, we get it in the opening, and then we're left completely wondering this whole season, whereas other seasons we'd go back every once in a while and get little hints, and I was actually surprised. I kept waiting for it, like some sort of answer or some sort of forward momentum, and now it's going to be like, 2-year wait.
Yes, but if we know Vince Gilligan, there's always a plan.
It does make me wonder how much of the next season will be... I keep wanting to call it the present. I don't know if that makes sense in the timeline, but how much will be after Breaking Bad with Gene?
Post Walter
We do know we have more than 10 episodes post Walter White. That's a good way.
But yeah, it's interesting, especially since they announced that a lot of the next season will take place during Breaking Bad, and we'd see scenes from Breaking Bad from other angles, from Saul's perspective. So the 14 episodes are going to be broken up the little span before Breaking Bad, during Breaking Bad, and then resolve the Gene.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say there's still probably, just because, I'm watching it with Kyle usually, and he's already watched it like a couple times. And so he's already picked up on all of the connections direct connections to the show, and some of them are kind of Easter egg like, and some of them are pretty, I mean, and that's where I think maybe it's beneficial to have seen Breaking Bad a couple times, just so that you're catching all of that, because that elevates what you're seeing even more, I think. So, but I'm sure he'll go into that.
I mean, just this season alone, we get the villain of the first 2 episodes, Domingo's whole backstory. We learn why he's called Crazy 8. We learn why he was a criminal informant, even though he technically wasn't. It was just a deal Saul got him to save his butt. And this is a character, like, if you just casually watch the show, you wouldn't even realize he's the guy that Walter White and Jesse fought in the pilot, and, you know, Walter had to murder. It'd be very easy to just think that, okay, it's just another nacho, you know, it's just showing the drug trade now. Just the detail, like, because you could casually watch it and, like, it's still a great story, but then once you realize how it's building the world.
Yeah, it's showing how all of their worlds collide, essentially, which is kind of cool. And not a lot of shows are that meticulous with that. They're hoping people aren't paying attention to that, and Lord knows we've recorded about several of those things. And
I think, too, like, when you throw in too many characters, like it would have been just as easy to find, or just as easy to like bring in another drug dealer type character, but I like that attention to detail because it does add to the world building factor, so you can actually care a little bit about the characters, and they have a little bit more impact if they go in an untimely manner.
Well, and it's just interesting, like, because, you know, Breaking Bad, you're seeing it from Walt and Jesse's perspective, so you're just seeing a 2-dimensional villain, and then this show has a much more multi-layered, like, you're seeing it from a much more ambivalent perspective. And it's just, I mean, that goes for everybody, too. Like, Gus and Lalo, all of them. They're seeing a lot more multi-layered drug dealers than you were from Walt. Because, I mean, yeah, we were seeing literally how Walt and them saw it as a scary world that they didn't understand.
That's the part that I really enjoy. I mean, learning of Crazy 8's backstory is fine. I think that really resonates with maybe the super fans, which you are one of, I think, and your wife is too, my sister. Crazy 8, that backstory is interesting, but I don't really live for that piece of it, or even the smaller details, I guess, around. It's the extra layers we're getting of Gus and Mike and Saul, which were, for me, the 3 best characters of Breaking Bad, in some ways, because they were these seemingly random variables that affected Walter and Jesse so profoundly, came in, burned bright, all, met their maker in a sense. He's got
Here's my
finger up.
I don't think you're thinking future-wise. Why Crazy 8's backstory is important is because he's literally Jesse, Captain Cook's employer. We had to see him become Crazy 8 and get that promotion so Jesse can come onto the show.
I'm not undermining its importance in any way, shape, or form, Kyle.
So if you wanted to see blending with Breaking Bad, that was an important step.
All I'm saying is that for my own personal connection to what is Better Call Saul, it's the layers that we're getting with Mike and Gus and Saul, really, too, since it's his show. Those 3 characters were ones that I really resonated with in Breaking Bad. I get that there's a larger story and chronology that Crazy 8 affects, and that's interesting, but, I think different parts of the story are going to appeal differently to different people, so I'm just telling you what appeals to me. And I killed the room. Awesome! I'm not
We're doing lots of nodding.
Yeah, there's lots of nodding. Oh, yeah.
Essentially, the pilot episode after the Gene stuff, it literally jumps right into Saul creating his practice and his client base. And I know some people complained about the wait. Do you feel like the 4 seasons of build-up was worth it once we hit this season running?
Oh, absolutely. That's what you're waiting for, This is the icing on the topping, man. This is great stuff.
I think if they were... Yeah, I think if they were to just jump ahead, I mean, you needed all that because you needed to see that transformation. So, I don't know. If there's commentary about the pacing, I don't know. Sometimes I don't understand that just because ultimately, again, as I talked about in my intro thingy, like, everything is all about development. And then if it just went from A to B without those critical points in the timeline and what affected him, it would make it less believable to me. So, and I think they're doing a really good job of piecing it together. So
I don't understand the pacing or
I
the
definitely-
either. It's a biographical piece, and you don't just come right out with biographical in the sense of you're taking a character and you're telling their story, not like a real person. Why would you hit on that from the first or even second season? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, there are a lot of people that were mad he wasn't Saul Goodman right from the first season.
Well, then you need to go watch Breaking Bad again, because that's when he saw Goodman right away. Hello?
I feel like it's something that happens a lot in like really character-driven shows too, where people complain about the pacing of a show because it doesn't seem like there's not enough happening. But I don't know. I think if you're really paying attention or you're really like here for the story arc of the characters, then to me the pacing seems to fit. Also, like, in knowing now that there will be 6 seasons of this show, it seems like it has been a really well-paced story arc for Saul, Jimmy/Saul. So I think if like you're looking for the answers given to you right away, maybe this is not for you. But I don't know. I'm here for a slow burn, for sure. Like, I'm here for a story that feels a lot more intentional than just kind of thrown together. So I guess it kind of depends on the kind of art that you're looking to watch, in my opinion.
I'll say that I would have been on board with a show that was, what's the right word? Not, I guess, episodic, where we're watching Saul Goodman wheel and deal just repetitively in different, unique ways. And there were a couple of times where I was like, I kind of can't wait for him to be Saul Goodman. But on the other side, I still don't understand anyone who's upset with the pacing, because it's just a good quality show. Everything is worthwhile when it happens. They're not drawing things out. It's worth watching, the performances, the stories themselves. So I don't understand that either. And I am someone who would have been fine just watching actually the Saul Goodman in Breaking Bad in a more sitcom-like show. I would have been on board for that too.
He would be the new Matlock, is what he would be.
He was Matlock for a while.
Yeah, he was.
He studied him.
We got that season.
My thing is, it's a prequel, so if you don't understand how sequels and prequels and spin-offs work, which this is both a prequel and a spin-off, you're not going to have the same pacing as the core show that started the whole thing. And there's only 10 episodes per season here, and each season has the plotting and direction and mapping ability that Vince Gilligan brings to really any show that he touches. So I guess people needed to mitigate their expectations. Maybe they thought they were watching Breaking Bad Part 2. I don't know, but it's not supposed to be the same show, and that's what I liked and what I expected sitting down, is partially because I was primed with having siblings and siblings-in-law so interested in the show, but also because I knew it wasn't going to be Breaking Bad, so I walked in with the expectation of, okay, I'm here for this story, and this story is going to be a little bit different. While it intersects and gets there, I can't wait to talk about the appearance that does come in. You let me know when you want to do that.
Kylie, if you have a sibling and sibling-in-law interested in the show, you should invite them to join the panel.
I think I invited them to moderate it. Haven't we talked about this? What kind of a question is that?
But yeah, like, I pretty much agree with Kylie. I think anybody that was complaining about that just literally wanted Breaking Bad. They just wanted more episodes of Breaking Bad.
Yep.
I feel like they did a brilliant job of, like, the first couple seasons of just the Jimmy and Chuck drama was so fascinating. But then they did give us the Breaking Bad world when they brought, like, you know, Gus in and the Salamancas. I felt like the way they balanced it was perfect. And then to get it as separate stories, like these little microcosms, made it 10 times more rewarding once we got to this season. And, like, literally everything just starts to come together. And I thought it was brilliant. I love the way they paced it out amongst all these seasons.
I also don't get wanting more of Breaking Bad, the show that already existed, because guess what? If you've only watched it once, you miss stuff. Just rewatch it if you want more episodes.
That's what I'm saying. It's one of those shows that deserves more than one viewing. It just has a bit I mean, I've watched it several times myself. You absolutely do miss stuff. That's why I think it's more impactful and elevated after you've been able to see it a couple times. I mean, and that's true for a lot of shows, but this one particularly just because of all of the detail and development. So,
and since Kylie referenced Breaking Bad cameo, and since we already talked about the Crazy 8 backstory, it introduced two great characters, R.I.P., Hank Schrader.
Don't tell people.
Spoiler!
And Gomez.
That's so much fun! I said, it's Hank!
That answers my question of how you felt about that.
That was a great moment and one of my 2 favorite episodes of the season.
And I just would like to point out, because it stuck up when my wife was watching it for the first time a little while ago, she absolutely freaked out because it starts with his dad bod, his belly, and Hillary's like, I know who that is! Like, all you need to do is see his big round pot belly, and she just got so excited. Like, you didn't even need to see him hold his badge up to the window.
No, that was...
I mean, no offense. But yes, I already knew who it was as soon as... I mean, the government license plate was the first thing, and then he stepped out, and I was like... But then also kind of did like a fangirly squee, too, so...
I totally squeed. I did, too. That was like... It was an appearance that makes so much sense, because he's, from the DEA. Of course he would be investigating this world. But for some reason, I was still sort of, like, surprised by it, so... And Hank is one of my favorite characters from Breaking Bad, so yeah, I was super excited.
It's just refreshing to hear him and Gomez's banter again. I mean,
Exactly.
Haven't heard that shit in a while, and it's just enjoyable to listen to those two go round and round. And then just to listen to Hank just kind of...
And it does make perfect sense. I would think that the DEA would have been aware of the Salamancas / the cartel for a while. But I was also surprised, and maybe it wasn't surprised because he was there, but maybe the timing of it, like, oh, it's now. Because I expect to see a lot more in this final season upcoming of people that we've seen before, but to have him in this season was a lot of fun, and it really felt satisfying in a way, like, okay, we're getting here, we're getting there, it's all starting to come together in these spiderwebby-like ways, and it's so much fun when that happens. In any multiverse, but certainly in this one as well.
I loved his performance in the scene when he's taking out Gus's mules, because you get to see the fact when he's with Gomez, he knows there's more. He knows there's a bigger thing at play here. And then he switches his persona to like the overly cocky one when he's giving the speech to all the cops and everybody, like, oh, we did good, we got all these scumbags off the street, which I love, because when you see Breaking Bad, that's the Hank you see for the first 2 seasons. And I just love that they're pulling the fact in that he is much more intelligent than or than they let on in early seasons. And I love that Hank. And I love the Hank he's also pre of his PTSD, so he's still at the top of his game. Like, I really hope we get more of him in the next season.
I would honestly watch a Hank Schrader cop show that took place like around that time where he's busting scumbags. Because I loved how he turned it on. He's saying like, this is booby prize. We only got like hundreds of thousands of dollars and a bunch of product off the street, but we couldn't catch the guy. But he gets up there and he's like, yeah, we're pretty great. Next round's on me, boys. It was just a really nice dichotomy of where it shows that there's work Hank and there's play Hank. And when he's working, he's unstoppable. There's a reason he's in the DEA. There's a reason he got promoted.
And it just just the fact that he has a notion that there's somebody like Gus out there, that this isn't just like an everyday thing. Like, he knows that like there's a bigger deal here.
Yeah, he knows he was being thrown above, like just something like they're being used as a pawn in a bigger game. Yeah.
I just want to say, kind of building off that point, it is fun to watch Dean Norris, certainly, but also Jonathan Banks and Giancarlo Esposito and Bob Odenkirk channel the pre-Breaking Bad excitement pieces, the earlier versions of their characters when you first met them, because they did evolve over their time on Breaking Bad and changed. And so it's got to be an interesting acting exercise to think about, this is the character I had when I first read these scripts and first put on these costumes and did this, and they have to divest themselves brain-wise from the characters where they landed at the end of those shows. I think that's really fun to think about. and just also goes more to the intricacy of how this is all interlocking together.
Oh yeah, I mean, I thought that last season when they had the flash forward when he's in full Saul Goodman panic mode, like getting his money and giving money to Francesca, and I like thinking about like Bob Odenkirk, like he played that over the top version of Saul, and then he's done 4 years of Jimmy, more nuanced, and then have to go back to the other Saul. Like I don't know, just amazing acting. I don't know how he does it.
I feel like this would be just such a great show to be an actor on. Like, you have different actors have different scenes together with different power dynamics, and just, going back to like having earlier versions of those characters pre-Walter White, where he came in and ruined everything for them. Yeah, it would just be like such a fun show to be an actor on, I feel.
These guys gotta be like such good friends in real life, I hope. I hope there's no enemies amongst this cast, and that they're all like, yeah, we've been doing this now since 2008. We're all best buds, kind of a business.
I was reading an article. They actually are, like Patrick Fabian, Howard Hamlin, and Bob Odenkirk and Rhea. Like, they have a house in Albuquerque while they're filming, and they all just live together all the time while they're filming.
Oh, that's cool.
Fun.
Yeah,
it's like a frat party of Better Call Saul people.
And since we were talking about the actors, I also read an interview with Giancarlo Esposito where he was talking about he started off his appearance in Saul with a more optimistic Gus, a slightly happier Gus, and that we're seeing him in his war with the Salamancas turn him into the Gus that we know in Breaking Bad. And like it's subtle as hell, but like once I read that, I realized that because like by season 5, all the frustrations that he has to go through to protect Nacho and like the personal losses, and like you see him go from like he gets much more quiet and much more of the more terrifying Gus that we know.
How about that scene in the restaurant when he is anticipating that someone's coming for him, and he has the guy volunteers to wash and rewash the deep fryers over and over and over again? I was like, damn.
Yeah, you see the cruel side. Like Gus is frustrated, but he's not going to physically show it.
He's taking it out on him.
So he's just torturing this poor teenage kid.
Lyle.
Yeah.
That's another one of those tension building scenes. But yeah, you definitely are you feel it right along with what's happening. At least I do. So, and just like the cuts of him walking back into the office with like the flip phone sitting right there on his desk right in front of him. And you can hear Lyle being stressed in the background, like sweating. Like, all he's just trying to do is get his approval on it. Because they all respect him.
Well, and
crazy.
And it also shows Gus, like, he's also brilliant because he set himself up with an alibi should somebody like Hank call into question where he was during these dead drops. And so he sets himself up with an alibi while still, at the same time, taking out his frustration on this kid and torturing him. So you literally see every single side of Gus you could possibly see in this one scene. But he's so quiet and calm.
He's an amazing actor. That character is an amazing character. I know Nate says Walter White is a mensch, but I continue my questionable love for Gus Fring because he's just so good at playing so many different edges and emotions just in a few facial expressions.
Like micro expressions.
Yeah.
They're just like, it's like a twitch of the eye, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna die now. You see how mad Gus was? Oh. And that kid's gonna grow up and talk about the work ethic he has now from his mental torture. Like, I stayed for 6 hours and cleaned that fryer. That's fine.
Well, it's funny, it's like, when Gus got his face blown off and everyone found out that kid was like, I knew he was evil.
Who makes a kid do that?
Technically, he didn't make him. He did.
He manipulated his.
Yeah, he definitely.
There was no coercion.
That's worse.
I know.
It was worse. The layers of manipulation were far worse than him just saying, you need to do this before you can leave, as normal management-esque people would do.
I mean, yeah, like, just like, is this acceptable to you?
Yeah.
But he wouldn't even look him in the eye. He's like looking down right at it. It's so perfectly acted.
He's like looking at like just a dead possum floating in that fryer. Just like,
Yes.
but again, but no expression at the same time. Like he just looks like Gus, but you see like some like an eyebrow, just one eyebrow hair just twitched, and you're just like, oh god.
He also has this uncanny ability to draw in his cheeks a little bit.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've ever noticed that. That not everybody can do that. Like, where it kind of shadows.
Yeah, like it changes his appearance almost completely, but it's so
does.
subtle.
It's very subtle, and it's such an important facet to this character and how he puts it on. I wonder about that every time. I would love to meet this man and just ask him, like, how the hell do you do that? So, I
But it's
want to know.
This season for me is like the season of Gus. Like he just really ascended to my favorite character of this show, I think, with this season. We can talk about this scene later, but the scene that he has with Mike, that I had chills in that scene.
Wait, which one?
Yeah, I was
Yeah, you can say which one. We're
There's a
talking
few.
about Gus.
Yeah.
Yes, talking about Gus. The scene where
Are they in their
I mean,
in his office again?
Is he
No,
talking
this-
about Nacho's dad?
There's a couple of them where Mike is appealing to him about Nacho's dad. And
Yeah.
there might be 3 total, but there's at least a couple. It starts off with, we need to talk about Nacho's dad. Then Mike comes at him a little harder. And then Mike finally says something to the effect of,
He deserves some consideration.
yeah, he's done everything you asked. He deserves some consideration. What are you going to do?
Why don't we cut him loose? He's done everything you asked. He's always been reliable.
I guess that's
Got
your
a
Mike
gun
impression.
to his father's head. I don't like that. It doesn't sit well with me.
This is Nate doing Mike Ehrmantraut, ladies.
that's
and
a good
gentlemen.
Mike. Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, but we don't have to pay for the rights for that clip now.
That's true.
Yeah.
Saving us money. Good job, Nate.
And then on the flip side, we have Lalo, whereas Gus is so stoic and like scary to everybody around him. Lalo is super, super friendly, but in an absolutely terrifying way. Like there's this threat of violence under everything he does, even though it's super chipper and super friendly.
See,
And-
I actually almost think that that's more haunting because that's more unpredictable.
yeah, it's almost Joker-like.
I
Like
was
he's
gonna
just doing
say,
things to amuse himself in this world, and he could flip on a dime.
I literally was just going to say he is the Joker of Better Call Saul. Because
He is.
he's got the chilling
And-
laugh and the smile and the barely
He's
contained
super
psychosis.
intelligent. His intellect, you can tell, is like through the roof.
Well, and ironically, because this was actually filmed before Joaquin Phoenix Joker, there's the scene when he's laughing about Los Pollos Hermanos burning down, and then Saul asked him what's so funny, and he's like, you wouldn't get it. And it's like, here's that scene in the Joker at the end of that, and I thought that was, it's awesome in hindsight. That's why I love this season so much. I love the chess game between Lalo and Gus. They're such opposites, but they're both brilliant in their own ways. So obviously everyone here's been singing Gus's praise. I was going to ask who everyone was rooting for in this battle. I think I know you guys are going to say, but I love Lalo.
Look,
Oh yeah, Lalo's a charmer.
He's I guess he's a mensch in his own way.
He's got mentalist qualities.
Yeah,
I
he's
mean,
got
he
mental-
loves his T.O.
He does love his T.O. His T.O.
Goes and
Hector.
visits his T.O. all the time.
He takes
Well, I
good
mean-
care of him. He puts whiskey in his car, tequila in his thing there.
And his vitamin juice.
Yeah.
His favorite.
Well, I mean, he's the only one not actually torturing Nacho.
Yeah.
Not overtly, but he's in much the way that Gus manipulated Lyle
Yeah,
with the
psychological
fryer.
torture.
It's a psychological torture with Nacho. He knows he's getting under his skin. Although I almost feel like if the Don had not really responded to Nacho the way he had, Lalo wouldn't have come along quite as far as he did, even though he's the one who introduced him. And also, I just think that Nacho is a plaything for Lalo. And
I think everybody is.
but really with
Right,
him, which makes the ending scene, I know we're not to the finale yet, but it makes you wonder whether or not Lalo figures out that Nacho is the one that let everybody in.
Oh, I mean, he looked at the 2 drinks, and then he looked at the open side door. And then it's like a split-second scene before he storms out and it goes to black. But he looks at the 2 drinks, he's seen the bodies of everybody else. He knows Nacho opened that door and ran. He had to have.
Which he, I think, always suspected was Nacho was capable of.
Well, I mean, Kim he wasn't even really thinking that, but in that finale, I mean, we're skipping ahead, but when Kim says, you have to get your house in order and look at your own people, I don't even think he was ever thinking about Nacho, but then that seed has been planted.
Which, by the way, since he's bringing that episode up, that's my favorite episode of the season, actually.
The finale or the one where they're in Jimmy and Kim's apartment?
Correct. After Jimmy has come back from his fun desert adventure with Mike.
It's like 8 or 9, right?
Yeah. And then the reason, again, that's a wonderfully acted scene. I mean, Lalo comes in. He already knows. I mean, he knows. He really knows what's happened. And just, again, that tension build of him sitting there, deadpan across from Jimmy saying, I want you to tell me again. I was like, oh, shit. Like, you've stepped in it now. And even still, and it took a lot of convincing even on Kim's part, but again, man, I like her. I like the complexity of her character too that continues to grow, but man, that whole scene too where she's like, it's just so layered. Everything is so layered, and she's just coming at Lalo and with kind of what Kyle was already starting to describe, but for me, that whole portion of that episode kind of set most of the tone for the season for me.
Just to stay on Kim for a little bit, I've always liked that character, but there's always been this part in the back of my head where I keep wondering what's going to happen with her because we knew she's not in Breaking Bad, and there's so many moments where she could have left Jimmy and we would not have blamed her. This season, she really has an important part to play. She doubles down on Jimmy. I really did not expect her to say, let's get married, until the words came out of her mouth. And I just really have enjoyed watching this character even more this season, which I thought I didn't know if she was going to stay, much like Michael McKean. It felt like she was more part of that first half of the series where we have Jimmy McGill, and we would leave her behind as we get closer to Breaking Bad. But
that's what everybody.
No, she's going.
But it ends up being the big twist at the end of the season, which the writers have been hiding, is essentially that she's the one that pushes him to be Saul Goodman. She's the one who's willing to go the more questionable, immoral route than him when she pushes him about the Howard thing.
But I still think that's layered too, because really, she's gotten there because of his influence. I mean, there's that whole scene in the hotel where he literally stares at her with intense guilt on his face. She steps out of the bathroom and he says, I feel like I am bad for you. And she's doing it for a few reasons. First off, we get some of her backstory. So you already know that, I mean, again, mommy issues and whatnot. So there's
Jimmy's
already
the only one who's there, who's always been there for her.
Right. So now they're married. She does love him. So yeah, like Nick just said, she's doubling down on him. And because before that, you see so much of her like grappling with all of the lack of morality of what he's doing and her yelling at him like, this is wrong, we're lying.
Until she sees his bag of money.
She's throwing the beer. Well, still, but she still learned that from him a little bit. Like, I don't think it just came out of nowhere. I think it's a mixture of all the things. I don't think it's any specific one thing. And I don't think it's all just her. But I do think that's going to set in motion everything else that's going to happen. Like this, I agree with you. This is going to be that final thing that pushes it over the edge. But even, because you even said yourself, Jimmy's face looking at her, like, yeah, he's like...
We can't do this. Like, not to Howard. He doesn't deserve it.
But in her head, she's already thinking, like, it's already come this far. I mean...
Well, in her head...
He's already with the cartel and all this other crap. So she's like... I think hers is coming from multiple angles. I don't think it's Well,
I mean, that's the point. She's a very ends justify the means. Jimmy can do these horrible things. He's not doing them to that many people. They deserve it. And we're getting this money to where I can help this entire room full of people who can't afford a lawyer. We're going to be doing so much good. So it's okay if Jimmy is pushed in this direction where he's being highly questionable.
But I'm going to jump
help out at a soup kitchen on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And suddenly that outweighs all the bad you've done.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in and agree with Hillary. I don't think it's as simple as that. With Kim and Jimmy, first of all, it's a classic codependence wheel. Okay,
Yeah.
that's the center core of the whole relationship.
And she's still missing the point of when he does it and how he does it.
Correct. But he also misses the same thing with her. So what ends up happening is one pushes the other, pushes the other, pushes the other, pushes the other. It isn't even.
They actually really have a toxic relationship sometimes.
It is, and it isn't just about the ends justify the means. Yes, that's the story that Kim is outwardly saying to herself and to him. You know, she wants her life to be meaningful. She wants her career to be meaningful. She wants to help people. She gets rid of Mesa Verde. She quits the firm with Dennis Boutsikaris, who's her boss. You know, she does all this stuff, but she's still willing to go the extra mile with the very morally questionable things in which Jimmy gets himself involved in. And remember, part of the buildup of their whole relationship is that idea that they go in on those cons together. There's something dangerous and fascinating, and it pushes her beyond herself.
Yeah, there's been lots of foreshadowing to this, that it's not just, and also too, I think in her head, she's kind of read Jimmy's actions towards Howard, because she just finds out their interaction that he just had, she just finds out from Howard that, Jimmy, and even though Jimmy's doing it from like almost an emotional reactionary standpoint, like again, it's just another thing where, and again, I still think, she's supporting Jimmy, like she's supporting him, but it's just all in the wrong way, and it's still going beyond, but that's still part of his influence. So it's a mixture of all of the things, which is why it's brilliant, and it is going to implode, but it's still fascinating to watch. And again, Bob Odenkirk, his expression as Kim kind of walks away, I mean, it's all in the facial expressions. He knows, like he basically knows, and it's not just her, They've
pushed each other, and what we find out in this last sequence is that they've both pushed each other beyond the line of whatever that line they weren't either going to cross with each other and with their own lives and with their own decisions. They've both crossed it together.
I don't think he's quite there yet, because he still has a little Jimmy in him in that scene when he's like, we can't do this. He doesn't deserve it. I think he's pushed her farther past himself than he is even yet, and then in the next season, I think she's going to pull him over that line.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that...
By the way, it makes me feel horrible for Howard, because I really love him this season. He's like he's trying to be a nice guy and help these people.
But Kim wasn't involved in all the stuff he did with the cartel. That was all on him. And she just happened to be at the tail end of that. So I don't think it's that simple either.
But here's the thing. What I'm talking about is morality. He's still doing everything within the realms of client privilege. Like, he's still doing things technically legal. He's not doing something that's as morally questionable as ruining a man's reputation.
Morality and legality are two different things. Morality and legality are two different things. So he's staying within the lines of legality, sure. But I don't know that he's staying within the lines of morality, not by accepting anything to do with the Salamancas.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, there's too many layers to it. There's too many, and and it's supposed to be at this point.
Well, that's part of what I'm saying is, like, he hasn't quite crossed that line yet, because he didn't even want to be a cartel man. It's almost like, he was brought to Lalo and pretty much terrified into it. So I'm just saying, he's not like the Saul Goodman from Breaking Bad yet, and he's going to get there in the next season. That's what I'm saying. He still has that Jimmy in the background where he keeps trying to justify it as, well, these are horrible people, but I am their lawyer, and technically, I'm not breaking it. I'm not a part of it yet. Whereas Mike's telling him, you're in the game.
I just think it's oversimplified to say that Kim is the one that's pushed him across the line. I don't think that's...
No, I'm saying I think she will be in the next season with Howard.
I actually read it, honey, I actually read it a little bit different. And, I mean, that's just perception. I actually think that he is pretty close at this point. I think he is a lot more Saul. I mean, I'm still think that the Jimmy is there, but I actually think he is super close to Saul.
Well, I think, like, that's always going to be his problem.
Yeah.
That's always going to be his problem, is that he is Jimmy and he is Saul. Mm-hmm. It's definitely not one or the other. And I don't know that there's a moment where he's being thrust into the world as fully Saul. It's always going to be Jimmy and Saul together.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Which is why we get
It's funny.
It's why we get the scenes of Jean, because I think Jean is that wrestling match Julianne just described.
Well, it's funny because we were just talking about like Lalo is a Joker, but it's almost like it's kind of like the same like psychological analysis of like Batman and Bruce Wayne a little bit. Since we're just because like at this point he's, like really Bruce is more Batman than he is Bruce. I think that's essentially what's happening with Jimmy. And he's still going to be Jimmy, but he's become that alter ego more.
And like going back to Kim, I think I had talked about in the last podcast that we did that I was kind of confused about Kim. And I was like sort of confused about what she was doing and where her character was going. And I think it's because I sort of looked at Kim through the lens that Jimmy looked at Kim, which is, but she's always going to make the better choice. Like she's always going to be the more moral one of the two of us. And I think like that whole moment at the end of the season, like that's when that glass finally shatters for him. And that was also when that glass shattered for me too. And I started to understand.
Yeah, that's a good.
This really is very like codependent relationship. And she is enjoying these things, or I don't know if enjoying is the right word, but I think you're picking up what I'm laying down.
And I think it's important to note that morality, immorality, that's a philosophically heavy topic to apply to this show, because really what you're talking about is, are these good people or bad people making good choices or bad choices? Arguably, Jimmy McGill is a good man who makes a ton of terrible choices. And Kim Wexler is a good woman who makes a ton of terrible choices. And Mike Ehrmantraut is a good man who makes choices all over the spectrum. He's much more practical and realist than maybe a Jimmy McGill.
I mean, they're all smart and they're all strategic and when they're doing it, but they're not really, they're not necessarily things regular people like you or I or any would do or be a part of.
Right.
I mean, and like, one of the things that is a little scene, but it stuck with me, is when he's getting Lalo out on bail, and then he looks over at the family of the guy that Lalo killed, and he just looks completely ashamed.
Yes.
And if you go back from that to him in Breaking Bad, when he's like suggesting they have people in prison shivved to death and like not even giving a second thought to innocent people, it just makes me really sad for Jimmy. Like, these are the last times we're going to see, like, that Jimmy come out in him, probably.
Well, I think he's going to end up fully jaded and just not give an F anymore.
And I think part of that might even be the PTSD of the desert thing. I think that's going to be a part of it. Like, he's disassociating, kind of.
Well, and I think it's also important to hold up the idea that, the two main characters of these two shows, Walter White in Breaking Bad and Jimmy McGill of Better Call Saul, both have alter egos. Right? Walt has Heisenberg, Jimmy has Saul. And so the masks that these are for each of these two characters are totally different, but parallel. Yeah. They're on completely and utterly non-touchable tracks because they've had different backstories, but they're also different people. Mm-hmm. Jimmy is basically a good man, but he's had a lot of crap circumstances. And that's what this show kind of walks us through, from the parents that weren't kind of left him to the care of the brother who was always jealous of him and his existence, and they're doting on him and all of that business, right down to, I'm going to
he's a nice guy, finish last type of thing.
A little bit until he decides he's not going to finish last, and then selling prepaid cell phones and getting involved in the drug cartels and things like that. Whether it's because he actively chooses it or not, it's the road that he has made.
Yeah, he's still also slipping, Jimmy.
Which is kind of shown in the microcosm in the first episode when he's just giving out his discounted law cards, and like he doesn't think beyond himself, and then it shows the montage of the crimes these guys are committing and how it's affecting all these people.
50% off.
There's a scene where when Nacho picks up Jimmy, and Jimmy has a mint chocolate chip ice cream cone.
Oh, yes.
And that ice cream cone falls.
Travesty.
That's Jimmy. Jimmy has.
And it starts out with one ant.
Well, yeah, because you have that sweet, nice thing that Jimmy has now invaded.
Painted.
Yeah, and like you said, it starts with a few ants, a few bad ants, just a few ants, and then
Symbolism.
Consuming it, and it's killed. And then when he sees it again later, he sees that ruined mint chocolate chip ice cream, which is why he turns it down when they're in the hotel. When he's in the courtroom, the people that he used to break the rules to protect, he's now using his powers for evil. That's his spilled ice cream moment. That's when he realizes he's soured what he thought was going to be an awesome thing, which was an ice cream cone.
Yep. That was a perfect description of that symbolism.
It breaks it all down.
I'm also super sad that mint chocolate chip is the one. Was that some good ice cream?
I know, why not an orange sherbet?
Exactly.
Let that
Who
be
wants orange
destroyed.
sherbet? Come on, but agreed. Okay, well, there's always one.
And then the final episode is the assault on Lalo's mansion, which is literally the moment in Breaking Bad that when we're introduced to him when he thinks that the cartel guys are there to kill him, and he says, "It wasn't me, it was Ignacio. Did Lalo send you?" This is it. This is what he's talking about. Nacho let the people in. I had nothing to do with it. So how did you feel about that scene? Personally, I loved it. I loved the action, and I love Lalo. So what did you guys think?
I just want to have I don't remember his real name, but I really want to spend a minute appreciating the guy who plays Nacho. Because I've really come to like that character a lot over the course of these... Okay. I really like him a lot over the course of these 5 seasons, and all of the stuff with, what does he call him? He gives him a name. Loco, is it Loco? Ignacio Loco or something like that?
Yeah.
I think that whole interplay between him and Lalo, and while he's playing two sides, because Gus has his father under the knife, as you said in your character introduction.
You got a gun to his head.
Got a gun to his head, and it's just, he's brilliant too, and I don't think enough gets said about him, but yeah. No, I wish, I'm going to have to go back and watch Breaking Bad and get excited about this moment to answer your question.
Interesting.
Because you've mentioned it many times, and at the time when I was going through it for the very first time, I was like, well, that's the Saul Goodman guy. I wasn't thinking about what he was saying.
I'm just saying, I feel like, and I'm not judging you, so before
but
you
she
get...
is.
It's a little bit of a panty twist. I'm not really. I just know you. I know you.
We've come
More
from
than-
a judgmental family.
I know her, and I know that when she goes back, the retrospectives will be like, oh yes, it will put you into the same category as the rest of us. I just know it, but it's okay. You're just at a different point.
Yeah, I'm at a different point.
But I just know you, and I know that's what's going to happen, and it's okay. Anyways,
But
that
how
whole
about that
thing
Nacho?
Yeah, back to Nacho. I actually thought like that scene with him with Don Eladio was kind of super fascinating too.
I wish they had put subtitles. Maybe, I don't know if the copy that Nick and I watched was supposed to have subtitles or not.
Supposed to have subtitles is important.
It didn't have subtitles.
Of the people you borrowed it from, maybe they thought you spoke Spanish.
That was incorrect. No hablo español. Hablo español un poquito.
Well, I was always worried if I looked down, but I'm like, I know what they're saying, so it's like...
Essentially, Don Eladio asks him, how will you make me money? What do you want? And then he tells him, like, how he would expand territories, and he tells him, like, how he would have these biker gangs go to war with each other and then pick up their territory.
About the biker gangs, because that part was in English.
And then he asks him what he wants out of life, and he says he wants respect, and he wants to never have to look over his shoulder. And Don Eladio tells him, then you're in the wrong business, friend.
So you already know he's like he's doomed.
Yeah,
and by the way, every time I see a scene with Don Eladio, I want to go back to Breaking Bad and watch Gus kill him. That guy is such a D-bag.
I mean,
yeah, I don't suspect that Nacho will survive the series, but I'm surprised he survived this long.
Yeah,
it's just
he's playing way too many sides, and I don't think he's doing quite as well as others are.
I mean, Gus
because
doesn't
he's
leave loose
desperate.
ends.
He's not playing it as well because he's desperate. I think he has the potential, and that's what the show tells you, is that Nacho could be one of these players, but he missteps, and his father is such his kryptonite, if you will, that he's desperate at this point, and he's making a lot of choices from that desperation point.
Good points.
Fascinating human nature, this whole Breaking Bad study is.
That is why it is brilliant.
Yeah, Vince Gilligan is on my list of creators whom I will always watch something by. So when I ask that question...
Character development is like my crack, so... And this is just so heavy on it that
you're addicted?
it just... Yes!
It's your meth.
Yeah,
You're right, I
like
missed
the
that
right
opportunity.
Don't worry, we'll fix that in post. Can we take it from... Character development is my crack. But you're going to say meth. And... Here we go.
He's just fixing all the problems in our world.
What's happening? What is happening?
It was his edit fingers, yo.
Okay.
Snipping. We're snipping it down. We're snipping it down.
I don't know how I'm going to be able to edit that, so we'll just go with it's both her crack and her meth. Kyle, you were saying?
I was just gonna say, like, the character work is so great. Like, even that scene when Howard is talking to Kim in private, and he tells her, you know who knew Jimmy? Chuck did. And it's like, you're instantly brought back to, like, Michael McKean's performance and everything. And
But Howard is right.
He is right, though, because he sees that Jimmy now has become what Chuck feared he could be. He's, like, reached max potential for, slipping Jimmy, the, chimp with a machine gun.
Machine gun, yeah.
But what I like about that is it's also Chuck's fault. Chuck wouldn't let
100%.
Jimmy move forward.
Oh, yeah.
And Howard this season has pretty much tried to undo that damage when he tells him, like, I could have stood up to Chuck. I should have hired you, and I'm going to do it now.
He's like totally apologizing for it.
But it's too late.
It is too late. And Howard is just, again, the roadkill on that train, man.
Yeah.
Poor Howard.
I don't know. He got Jimmy.
He's just trying to namaste.
Yeah, that's right, man.
Jimmy gave him those 3 bowling balls. That was a nice present.
Yeah.
He gave him the bowling balls on his car.
Howard's a pretty smart dude too, but I don't blame him for being so emotionally exhausted and confused.
Well, Chuck messed with his head for years. We didn't even see the half of it.
He's like, I'm just trying to, like, uphold my dad's offer. Like,
dude. That's basically what he could say.
it's so sad.
He's just like, man, I'm just part of the machine, man. Okay? Not so much like the dude, but it would be, the sentiment is there. He's trying to figure it all out.
I think if nothing else, this show particularly, maybe both shows, but this show particularly, is really about cause and effect. And how you manifest things when you expect them to be. We're saying it's Chuck's fault. It is partially Chuck's fault. It's not really all of Chuck's fault.
All layered.
Yeah. He was making the choices that made Chuck have his opinions.
I could psychoanalyze this show.
Well, and you have to remember, he did start out as slipping Jimmy. He did have that questionable past. He got past it, but that's all Chuck could see, and so Chuck brought it back out constantly.
And Chuck was the pinnacle.
I think he repressed it.
Right. And Chuck was a pinnacle lawyer, but he was also a narcissist with his own psychological baggage.
Yeah.
I guess for me, the question is, would he have become... I go back to Chuck telling Howard not to hire him out of the mailroom as a lawyer. Once Jimmy got past the bar, I feel like he could have been on a path that did not lead to Saul Goodman.
Yes.
So that's why I kind of put it a lot on Chuck.
Well, even when he was working with Chuck with Chuck on that Sandpiper case, and he was like literally doing everything by the straight and narrow, like they're going through the briefs, he was doing the paperwork, like he really cared, and he could have stayed that, like had Chuck stayed on his side, that's, I think, who Jimmy would have stayed. He would have been like, me and my brother are lawyers and we're doing good.
Yeah, he could have steered a different course.
But stayed on his side is an interesting choice of words, because the question is, was Chuck really ever on his side? And that's kind of where we're at. Like,
just superficially.
Very superficially. But that does go back to what Nick, you're saying, if he had made that hire, would Jimmy still have become Saul? Maybe not. Maybe he would have become something different. You know what I'm saying? So I think we're watching the perfect storm for Jimmy McGill turning into Saul Goodman, and it's all the things wrapped up into it, though. It's Chuck, it's Howard, it's Kim, it's the cartel, the Salamancas, it's meeting Mike, for crying out loud. We've barely talked about Mike, by the way. I mean, Mike has this whole arc in this season that he's finally working directly for Gus, no holds barred, no blurry line, taking the money, doing the things, all for his granddaughter, which is where you basically find him when he enters in Breaking Bad.
I will say, though, my least favorite part of this is the episodes when he's in the little town, which I get why. I mean, did you guys understand the reference with the fountain?
Which little town are we talking about? Get me
The village. After he gets stabbed, and then
he's not dealing with Werner's death, and he kind of wants someone to kill him, so he picks the fight with the gang. He gets stabbed, and then
he's
Gus
with Gus's physician. His physician's on his compound.
Yeah. That compound is where Max Archinega, Gus's friend and partner, who Hector killed, that's where he grew up. So you see the fountain that says dedicated to Max. So that's the good that Gus is putting in the world that he doesn't show anybody, is that he's taking care of Max's family and all the people connected to him.
Thanksgiving soup kitchen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and Gus did used to be... I mean, he's just fallen so far down the revenge path that it's made him the same level, if not worse, sociopath that the rest of them are. So, but that's still something that he's doing to honor what... I mean, because when we see that flashback scene in Breaking Bad, I mean, I still perceive Gus as, he's going into like a criminal line of work, but I don't see him as a bad person.
No, he was just a businessman.
Yeah, he was just a businessman. So there's still some of him in there trying to do that, but he's so far down his conquest and revenge that...
Well, and I just like this reminder because, like, if you watch a show without Breaking Bad, you don't really get that, or, like, why he's so laser-focused on the Salamancas. Like, they never talk about Max in this show. You literally have to have seen Breaking Bad to know why this means so much to him. And I love that little reminder. It's just those episodes where he's in that little town, like, fixing the window and stuff, slowed things down. I think he would have been fine had he just been, like, he's working for Gus. But, like I said, that's a small nitpick in an amazingly great season. Because, like, when he gets out of that little town, like, he's fully just working for Gus. Like, they just breeze past.
I don't know. I didn't have any qualms about that spot, I guess. I like the Mike stuff because he is such a different character than everybody else, and he's really not the sociopath. He's the one guy who's not really a sociopath. He operates very much more from a practicality, common sense, and also I'm doing this for my family kind of spot. And so that's a nice break sometimes from the other characters that are kind of in a maelstrom of different emotions. Mike is very even, usually.
Well, he's the consummate professional. Like, he literally is in his head a businessman. Like, he does these transactions. There's nothing personal involved. He gets a job, he does it. And a lot of these people, I think, see themselves that way, and they don't even see how wrapped up they are in their little wars and personal vengeances.
It is personal for him a little bit, only in the sense that it gives him focus from his grief, which they spent more time exploring that last season than they did this season. But I think that's the motivation you take away from Mike, is that he knows what he knows and he's going to do what he's going to do, and he has to do what he's going to do, because if he stops for any length of time, he's reminded of his son and how he died and all of the different things rolled up into that, and he wants to remember how he's taking care of his granddaughter. And in some ways his legacy that he can never really celebrate with any kind of, bombast that some of these other people are doing their jobs with and thinking about. So it's really a good set of characters. Good set of characters.
Yeah, I think that Mike is just, I love Mike. I just think he's more set in what he's already doing in the in the upcoming sequence of events. So, I mean, more or less, I just enjoy him being a badass.
Yeah,
but...
I mean, and that's essentially because, like, when we see him in Breaking Bad, he's super cold-blooded. Like, he just mows guys down. And then in this season, we see him, like, go through that, dealing with Werner's death, and it's almost like he realized, like, okay, I'm a bad guy, I accept it. And then when we see him gun down all those cartel guys and save Jimmy, and nothing, like, you know, he's no second thoughts. Like, when he walks up to the one that's crawling away and just shoots him in the head, seeing him become that Mike, who is just
he's pretty
the
much
perfect assassin and hitman and right-hand man.
Yeah.
He's a fixer, really.
He is a fixer.
He's always fixing. He fixed the window. He fixes Gus's problems. He's a fixer.
Yeah,
I mean, that's true. And he's always helping people just be less
crazy.
Dumb.
Like rash.
Yeah, rash. He's always setting people straight, which goes along with the fixer thing.
Always.
He tries to set Walter straight, and Walter completely misinterprets his words and messes
It's
everything.
all a big misunderstanding. Yes, I agree.
There wouldn't be an episode without Nate supporting his favorite anti-hero, Walter White.
Yes.
Where do you guys think it's going to go from this? Any predictions for the Fenna season?
The only thing, I mean, everything is I don't know. I mean, we know it's going towards other Breaking Bad things. I'm really interested to see what happens with the Gene bit of it.
Yeah, I want to know
Same.
what happens there. I'm wondering who's after him and if Lalo actually survived that long. I predict Nacho's going to bite it, and I'm kind of certain Kim is going to bite it.
I don't know. I don't know if she's going to die, but they are definitely going to implode.
Something.
Like some bad is going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to say that I do think Nacho's going to die, but I don't know if she's going to die.
I'm wondering if with these Breaking Bad things they're hinting at, we're going to get, like, Kim was always there helping him figure things out behind the scenes or something. Like, that's what I'm wondering. She helps him play people, and I'm wondering how much he was playing Walt and Jesse. Like, I don't think the meeting was accidental. I don't think anything. I think he figured about Heisenberg, and I think he found a way, and I don't think it was as easy as Walt and Jesse finding this criminal lawyer.
So you think...
I think there's more to how...
Kim is a big fat misdirect.
That's what I think.
Misdirection.
I think she's almost going to be like a silent partner.
And so right now, we feel like it is the mixture of the influences and the toxicity, but maybe just like Chuck, she was really driving it more so behind the scenes, and we just don't know it yet, and that's going to be the bombshell.
So you're basically casting Kim as Lady Macbeth, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that could be... I mean, that would make sense. I mean, it's headed in that tragic direction, so...
Can you all please go spit in every corner of the theater now?
We're not in the theater, there's no bad luck.
I mean, it's fun and interesting because this is, you know, the first season. I don't know what's going to happen. We're, like, you know, I'm in the same spot as you guys, but yeah, I don't think anything so tragic is going to happen to Kim. I think she's literally going to be the silent partner to Saul Goodman, helping him along the way. But then the real question is, if that's true, where is she during the Gene segment? Because he would have taken her with him.
So that's what I was wondering too. Like, if she does, like, earlier on, I was kind of saying how, like, I was concerned about what was going to happen to Kim, like, more of a, like, safety perspective. But I actually think, like, something might happen to her legally. Like, she might end up in legal trouble and end up in jail or something like that. Because we don't...
Like, if she's really going to cross the line with Howard.
Well, Julianne, finish what you were going to say.
I think if she is a silent partner to him in the next season, then it's going to be from a jail cell. Like, that's just my, like, 2 cents on it. Because I just feel like we would have seen or heard something, I don't know, or maybe, like, something would have been added into that flash forward that they had in season 4 when Saul is trying to escape. Like, some mention of Kim.
Maybe Saul is going to be the reason that she goes to jail. Like, maybe that's going to be the other thing of it, like Game of Thrones style, where, like, he's like, okay, we love each other, but I got to put you out of your misery type of thing, because you're going too far. And so Saul's the reason she ends up going to jail. Or the Jimmy side of Saul. I don't know, there's lots of different ways it could go, guys. I'm just saying.
This is an intriguing theory, but I would be super surprised to know that she, survives this interconnection that was formed this season with all of the things he's involved in, especially given where he does end up in Breaking Bad. And then if she does survive it, that there would have been literally no mention of her whatsoever at any point, at any time.
He did mention his third wife, which now we know is Kim.
What does he say?
He's just, when he's talking to Walt about wives, was because, like, you know, when Walt's like losing his mind about Skylar, he mentions his third wife, but we don't know if like she's still his third wife or if it's in past tense. But I'm just saying there was one apparent reference to Kim that we didn't know about until this season.
It would just be really surprising. Go ahead, Nick.
Well, because we're gonna get into the timeline of the show Breaking Bad, I think she's definitely gonna be around for that point. It's, does she survive all the way until the gene parts? Is she in hiding as well? Did they go in hiding separately? But I do think she's helping, at least at the beginning of getting involved with, of Saul getting involved with Walter White.
Yeah.
I think she has some kind of plan, whether it's vague, counting on Jimmy and helping Jimmy bring more money in, because right now I don't really know what her plan is for after she quit, but still wants to do pro bono work.
Oh, Jimmy's making that friend of the cartel money.
Exactly. So I think she's going to help keep that going.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
And so that, I think that's what we're going to be seeing. But again, because the timeline brings us presumably all the way to Jean, she might not survive that as well. So I think we'll see maybe a little bit of both of that, of what we're talking about.
A little mixture of everything.
It's going to be topsy-turvy, baby. It's going to be wild. That's what Nick told me before we went out.
And what season does Saul come in on Breaking Bad, 2 or 3?
Season 2.
Okay. So we know that at least that first season's worth of time in Breaking Bad, anything goes as far as Saul, because we never really met him until later on. So that, you know, for sure I can buy. I don't know. Kim, I can just, I mean, Lady Macbeth was a tragic character, is all I'm saying. She doesn't survive the play. Spoiler. So...
Well, who does?
Not many.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I was just going to let it roll.
I was just pointing specifically to the one character, please. Thank you.
I guess what I'll say about Kim, this isn't a prediction, but more of a want. I want to see another interaction / showdown. I don't know how I want it to go, but I want to see Kim come toe-to-toe like she did with what's-his-face, the guy in charge of Mesa Verde, which led directly to her standing up to Lalo.
Yeah, you want her Julia Sugarbaker moment.
Yes, I do. You will not alter drapes in Atlanta.
Yes, yeah, you want her to be like spitting fire, like when she did to Salamanca. Yeah, but then oh yeah, me too. Yeah, if then they shoot her right then, so be it. What happens? But you're gonna get that moment.
I think it has to come to that. Like, we haven't seen her hit. If she's in this next season, there has to be a moment higher than that. And I think that was the pinnacle of Kim.
Get your house in order, and you're just like, oh man, and you play that gif of that kid doing this. What?
That was seriously my favorite scene of the whole season.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. Like, hands down, that whole thing when Lalo enters the apartment and he's like, hey guys. Like, that whole thing all the way till the end. Yep. So Mike on the rooftop across listening to it and watching it with his sniper. Like, the whole thing. That was my favorite scene of the whole season.
I mean, the tension was just, like, palpable.
Oh, man, yeah.
With the phone hidden right by the fish tank, and he kept looking at the fishes and tapping on the fish tank.
I know, what a dick. He said that scares them.
Yeah. and then just Mike at the end of it, you know, I heard enough to know that she just saved you.
Which is kind of telling a wonderful little pronouncement, like, oh, so now you know why they're together, Mike, next time you question it. Because he was questioning it all through the desert during the avoidance of drinking urine.
But it was also him getting confirmation that he was right. She is in the game.
She's definitely in the game.
She's way in the game.
So
even though, and that's the other part of that, is that Jimmy keeps saying that, or Saul keeps saying that she's not a part of it, but that's horseshit. She is.
She is Michael Douglas. That's how far in the game
I hate that movie.
Yeah. But there's some parallels.
so deep. It's so deep.
Who's moderating this?
Anyways, I really enjoy too when Hank rolls in. This is totally going backwards, but when Hank rolls in and he says, "I'm so good," and he's like, "Really? It's all good, man." Like, that's the best you could come. Like, that was so perfect. That was so true Hank style, and of course he would be the one to call him out on that.
Well, I mean, it goes literally the first time we see Saul is like him and Hank, him ruffling the feathers of the DEA agents when they arrest Badger.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
It's
there
just
were not
so
enough
funny.
scenes of the two of them together in the original series. I hope we get more of them next season. So 'cause
There's a
they're
big
funny.
wish list here. This isn't an Aladdin level wish list.
Look,
So
they
three
have
wishes?
they're going more than 10 episodes. There's plenty of possibility here.
I just don't want us to wish too much.
We can wish to the moon, Nate. We just might be
I'm
disappointed.
just saying, if there's gonna be something that delivers, no pressure, but it's more than likely going to be this.
For me, I'd like the last season to have all the things I'd like to see happen. That's what we're all saying. We're all just like, man. I
And
hope-
would one of those things be an appearance of Walter White? Because how can you avoid that at this point? First of all, they already had a little bit of a thing. And then second of all, they're going into the Breaking Bad.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm gonna be hooting like I'm on Arsenio the moment he comes out. Yeah, he's back, baby.
Going
Throwback
having a nerdgasm.
for Generation X and Elder Millennial if you watch the Arsenio Hall show.
I'm actually hosting the Couch Potatoes Unite
Google it!
of the Arsenio,
Probably a GIF!
Arsenio Hall show. Nick's gonna be on it.
If
He's
we-
co-moderating with me.
You know what? If we launch an Arsenio Hall show panel, which isn't really an art idiom, you are definitely the
Are we
moderator.
doing panels on talk shows? I sign up for Conan.
I guess we can have a talk show spin-off. Nate can host Arsenio. Hillary's got Conan. Anybody else want to claim one?
Comedy Bang Bang.
Hardly off.
Yeah.
That's a good
No,
one.
it's not. You know why? Because Conan helped Bob Odenkirk get his start.
There you
Bam.
go.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah, he
who's
doesn't love
moderating?
Arsenio.
Who is
I'd like to point
moderating?
out that Bob Odenkirk was a writer for Conan, so technically Bob Odenkirk helped Conan get his start.
You want to know what? They're
What's
friends.
happening?
Suck it.
What's happening?
There we go. Pitch delivered.
Hashtag disclaimer.
Someone you want to talk about?
We're charming. Anyways, this show is good and everyone should watch it. And I'm excited for the next season, but Bob Odenkirk is healing, so it'll probably still
He
be a
started
little while.
filming again.
I know he started filming, but they're probably not going to go at the pace that they would have because he's
They were
probably...
more than halfway done when it happened, so hopefully it soon.
Okay, I'm just saying usually restrictions happen after a major heart event. That's all.
Well,
Well,
I was watching that whole scene of them walking through the desert, and I was like, well, no wonder Mr. Poor Bob Odenkirk had a heart attack. They have him out here in the desert drinking his own piss.
Yeah, for real.
I'm pretty sure the piss
I'm
part was
pretty sure they were throwing water at his...
He's
Yeah.
Jackie Channing it. He's
I'm
going
just
all
saying, it
in.
looked very strenuous.
balls to the
It
wall with
It is
references
very
today.
hot in the desert, I'm told.
It's a rich tapestry of references.
I can hear that and see it. Yeah, the desert sucks.
Very hot, I've heard.
What is that?
Sorry for people who enjoy it. I don't like the Michigan summer, so I can't imagine liking the desert.
Hey, Kyle, did you want to talk about anything else at all remotely related to Better Call Saul?
We will, even when we're not recording, it's fine.
But that's...
I think we about covered it. Probably off the rails.
I was trying to help you, man.
Are there any other points that you would like to discuss, since you love it?
I mean, other than the predictions, which we covered, I think we covered this season pretty well.
This episode is almost as long as the season.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Guys,
love
that's what we
ending
did
on
this
those
episode.
notes. Thanks, Nick. Jeez.
So I would like to thank Nick, Nate, Jules, Kylie, and Hillary for being on this podcast. And I will kick it back to Kylie so she can do her little ending jig.
And
She's not ready.
No, I'm always ready. Calm down. And I'd also like to thank Kyle, my brother-in-law and lover of Better Call Saul, for moderating this portion of the series, which he will do again when we return to talk about the final season, Season 6. But before all of that happens, we have credits to roll. Couch Potatoes Unite! Exclamation point was produced by Back Pocket Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato, which is really another way of saying executively produced by me, Kylie Piette. My associate producers are Krista Pennington and Selene Rezmer. I edit this podcast, and our logo is by Rebecca Wallace. Our marketing graphic artist is Krista. Our theme song was written by Sarah Milbratz and sung by Sarah, Amy McDaniel, and Kels Rezmer. Kels played the keyboard, Ian McDonough played the bass, Christian Somerville played the guitar, and the whole shebang was engineered by Kyle Aspinall and Christian. We hail from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please, if you like what you hear, take the time to rate us, give us stars, provide comments, or review us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Amazon are just a few of the places you can find us, but we're also on YouTube. We have our website. Otherwise, feel free to tell us how we're doing, what we should add, subtract, keep, or toss. You know how it goes. And if you have suggestions for shows we might consider, contact us at our website where we have a guest book, by email at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com, our Facebook, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, or wherever you get your podcasts. Though, of course, we had new and old shows to chat about around the water cooler all the time, and always have new episodes coming down the pipe. Just listen to our intros. If you miss old episodes or want to know in general what shows we cover, just search for us. Find us wherever you do searchable things on the internet. Don't forget that exclamation point, or contact us via our website, our email, our social media accounts, and stay up on all the new events and episodes by our humble little podcast, Couch Potatoes Unite! Exclamation point. Until the next time, all available seasons of Better Call Saul are available to stream on Netflix, except the 5th season. Good luck to you all to finding it. I guess you can buy it on Prime, maybe, or some outlets like that. Otherwise, you have to wait, because they usually wait to put it on Netflix until the new season starts rolling. But they are an unofficial non-sponsor, even though we don't like to say it. In the meantime, our Breaking Better series panel will next reconvene following the airing of the 6th and final season of Better Call Saul, which is expected to premiere in 2022, though no official premiere date has yet been announced, in the final episode of our series, Part 7 of our Breaking Better series panel. So until next time, until next episode, new episodes are published every Wednesday. Keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned!
Bye-bye.
Bye.